Pencil?
Pencil's fine. I won't hurt myself.
John, good morning. Good morning.
We waited for you.
Hey, thanks.
We're live, we're all set.
Great, thanks. Call the meeting to order. Need a motion to approve the minutes of the 23rd of January. Made by Debbie, second by Supervisor Merlino. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. So you have,
Yes, we have one resolution because the two of the initiatives that were approved at the December 16th meeting were the actual contract was signed in January. We need to reappropriate the money from the reserve to the 2023 budget. So that would be for the de-icing, device education and planning of 3,000. I don't have the amounts here. You have it on your lap. 3,386.54, and the historian's funding for the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution Commission, which was 23,000. So we just need to reappropriate that money from the reserve.
somebody want to move that, John? Second, Deb. Any discussions, questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I would like to we have Zach Smalley here from the YMCA
Okay,
and he's actually number 3 under the municipal application funding. I'm sorry, number 2 for an event called Bluegrass in Heaven. And I'd like to give him the privilege to give us a short synopsis of that.
okay.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So my name is Zach Smalley. I'm the Director of Guest and Member Services for Silver Bay YMCA. We're in Silver Bay, New York, just in the town of Hague up here. And with me today.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Butler.
Did you get to that?
Yeah, we can use them.
Certainly. Yeah.
Is it working okay? Okay, I'm Lindsay Butler. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Silver Bay, and we're really excited to tell you about a new festival we're hoping to bring to the northern end of Lake George. So, Zach, you can speak first.
Yeah, thank you. So in case the folks didn't hear, my name is Zach Smalley. I'm the Director of Guest and Member Services at Silver Bay YMCA. There's a third member of our team who couldn't be here today. His name is Terry Baker. He is kind of the driver of the process for us. Terry is a longtime member and volunteer at Silver Bay YMCA, and he has a very heavy background in bluegrass and in bluegrass festivals, helping administrate those, volunteer at those. And last year, Terry came to us with a proposal to bring a bluegrass festival to Silver Bay YMCA. So the purpose would be to bring a new event to the northern Lake George area that will become a sustainable source of culture and revenue consistent with the mission, principle, and operating standards of Silver Bay YMCA. So if you're familiar with our property, we have a great place to host events. We have a historic auditorium and many other meeting spaces that would really work nice for this music festival style. The dates for our festival are September 15th through the 17th of this year. We have already gone ahead and started planning just because things running a little bit slower this year. We haven't waited on the application of this grant and the reward of these funds to go ahead with it. We've committed to do it this year as an organization. So if we're able to land the grant, fantastic. We'll be really thrilled about that. If not, we'll do our best to make up the difference and meet our budget that way. So we're asking for $15,000 from the occupancy tax grants that are available. That will go towards covering the cost of bringing in fresh talent. So we're working with nationally recognized and internationally recognized bluegrass bands, as well as regional bands and local bands as well. So that's the very brief overview of the whole event. I know I don't want to take up too much of your time. Are there any questions or anything? Like I said, Lindsay is Vice President of Sales and Marketing, so she could fill us in more on the marketing plan if you would like to hear about that. or any other questions about the event.
Are you, how many people are you expecting to come?
So we're hoping this first year to get about 400 attendees. We have, thank you for bringing that up. That reminds me of something else I wanted to say. We have accommodations at Silver Bay, obviously, but we've been working closely with Edna Frazier at the town of Hague and the Ticonderoga Arts Guild as well. They've also committed funding towards this because our goal is not to have everybody that comes stay at Silver Bay, but we're hoping that they're taking advantage of other local lodging areas. Bluegrass festivals traditionally are, people camping in a farmer's field and driving their RVs and whatnot. So we expect Rogers Rock Campground to see more business because of this. And of course, like the other resorts and Airbnbs in the area and stuff like that, we'll see a boost as this as well. We're offering day use passes as well as folks to stay and like have the whole package of reservation and food and stuff like that at Silver Bay.
So you're a nonprofit, you don't pay any sales tax?
That's correct. Yep. Silver Bay is a YMCA 501c3.
Gene, did you have something?
Yeah, I was almost going to ask the same question because over here you have 700 attendees and 300 room nights. How do you get that number?
So that's an estimation based off of some of our previous events that we've done like this. This being the first year of the event, we're hoping on our great marketing team and
300
local
room
support.
nights is quite a bit for the first time. If you can.
Yeah,
get to that.
we're pretty confident with it though. We've got some pretty good connections with the national bluegrass scene. We have one of the premier conferences that comes every year is a bluegrass instructors camp actually that happens at Silver Bay. And then we have, our regular concert series. And then marketing partnership wise, Cafe Lena, and I'll let you speak to that.
Okay.
Sorry, not steal your thunder.
Sorry. Yeah. So Cafe Lena has said that they will partner with us down in Saratoga to help with our marketing. Obviously they bring in amazing talent. They have a really robust marketing list of people who want to attend festivals like this. I also work with most of our conferences that come to Silver Bay. And as Zach previously mentioned, one of those is a premier bluegrass teacher. He's played at Merle Fest, which is the biggest bluegrass festival in the US. He's given us access to his email list as well and is going to help co-promote. And then Terry, who is our third party who couldn't be here, has also played at Merle Fest and taught. And he has a great network and connection. We're promoting in national magazines for bluegrass. We're going to be in the Merle Fest brochure, the Jenny Brook brochure, which is a festival in Vermont, so semi close to us. And then we're doing some really fun mobile location targeting. But if you use apps when you're at Merle Fest, you'll see ads for our festival pop up. So we have a really robust marketing plan and we are really confident in that 300 number for overnight stays. And then also thinking that the day passes will get us to that 700 number because we want to make it affordable to our community members, which is why we're offering the day pass.
John?
Yeah, and the day pass, there's two options, $40.
That's correct. So we're going to do two different ticket levels. Thank you. One will be the $40, what we're calling the festival pass to attend all the activities. But each evening, so Friday and Saturday night, we're going to have what we're calling the headliner concert with the nationally recognized bands. We have Michael Cleveland coming for the one evening concert. Here's Lindsay has a schedule of
It's a tentative schedule.
Yeah, of our artists that have already agreed to come that we're looking at there. So the ticket that will include the headliner band will be an additional $40 on top of that. So you could spend $40 to come for the day and do all the activities besides the headliner concert in the evening, or you could spend $80 and attend all those activities and the headliner concert.
Okay. And do you have the 15,000 that we would give you targeted for any particular activity?
It's not for activity, it's solely for artist payments for talent acquisition is what we called it in the budget.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Ben?
Thank you, Chairman. Exciting news.
Yeah.
I might also encourage you to reach out to Park Theater and they've had some pretty big name artists from bluegrass there. Ben Miller.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
so over the year, the last couple of years, they've had some pretty big names there. Too.
Thank you.
They may
Yeah.
want to also look to collaborate with you.
Thank you.
That's great.
Right downtown Glens Falls, right?
Yeah.
Down the
Mhm,
street from the house.
Thank you.
Very good. Yeah, we have a pretty good bluegrass population in the area, folks that enjoy those. I run our typical summer concert series at Silver Bay, and most of the bands are bluegrass. So we have a lot of local interest for that as well. And I think I mentioned we're getting some funding from the town of Hague, from Edna Fraser, and support there from those guys, as well as from the Ticonderoga Arts Guild has put some money down to support one of the artists that's coming as well. In the application, we highlight this, but I want to make sure that I mention it. Our growth plan is to grow out of the occupancy tax funds within 3 years, so that we're not relying on this money from the county year after year after year. But it helps us get our feet under us. With the lineup that we have, I think we're going to hit a really good year one with this, as far as the talent goes. So we're excited.
Gene?
You sold me
Fantastic.
on this. And that's the only reason I'm saying that we've gotten away from having people come in to see us. We used to do that many years ago, line them all around the building.
Well, thank you for the
10
opportunity. Yeah.
minutes to listen. It's so more impressive than sitting there and trying to read all this stuff here that everybody sends to us.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be bringing up that we might go back to that next year because you sold me on this.
Well, thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions before you,
Sure.
Jan. You go ahead, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Well, they came to the CBB many months ago to first talk about, the process of this, what about the idea? So we floated, I called several other, Rural Fest and other, promoters, that know the bluegrass market. And what we learned was that the demographic skews older, which is really perfect for us in September, because if you look at who comes here in September, it's a lot of empty nester couples and that because the kids are right back in school and they're back in sports and everything else, which the bluegrass, they would feed right into that bluegrass market. And that market actually in some other destinations, and maybe it's because it's the Southeast or where a lot of them have been housed. Their average room rates were like right in line with our higher end average room rates. They're not looking for that, $50 room night. It's not that type of customer, which was really interesting as I talked to some folks in North Carolina, Tennessee, and some other places. Of course, they're not there necessarily in the fall. There are other times of the year, but it was really interesting. And that's when I talked to them about, first talk to Edna, make sure, you've got buy-in from all around there. And I know that we see just in the town of Lake George, Bolton, coming south, from there, that's where we see overnights, their overflow from it.
Mhm. Absolutely. And we're really excited to bring kind of a bigger community event like this. That's not just only Silver Bay guests and stuff, but up to our community on the northern end of Warren County and on the shores of Lake George there.
And somebody on your town board would tell you that he travels to bluegrass festivals around the country.
Isn't that all he does?
That's great.
My question came back to me. How much did you get from Edna?
$3,000 for the town of Hague. Yep.
Is
And then-
that part of this 15 or are you doing that?
That's in addition to.
in addition to? Okay.
I just also wanted, so sorry, to quickly mention that we, aside from receiving the funding from the town of Hague, we're working on partnering with them in different ways as well, whether it's to bring in, we like to give back to our community, obviously, as a nonprofit. So whether it's working with the fire department, letting them open a place where they're maybe doing chicken barbecue and they keep all of the funds for that. We're bringing in crafters and people from the town, because that's really the festival. You have crafters and people selling merchandise. So we are going to have people from the community that'll come in and teach crafts to the kids and families that are coming in and maybe some of the different populations, but we really want to push as much back into our community as possible. So.
Okay. Anybody else? Second go around? Go ahead.
Keep
Bill.
calling on people. It's not my job.
Yeah, where it says yoga, that's yoga on the beach. People will be coming to do yoga.
That's correct. Yep. So we partner with several local yoga instructors on a regular basis anyway. So we're going to integrate that into the programming for the weekend. Yeah.
We want to make it an experience.
Yeah, and with the YMCA's values of spirit, mind, and body, of course, we you might see on there Sunday morning, we're going to roll over some of the musicians into our Sunday morning service because we have a chapel on site and run, that time of year, we run a weekly Sunday service. So we do that in the summer often where we have, the performers from the Saturday night concert stay into the Sunday morning service and do what we call bluegrass service, which is kind of nice as well. So for us, for YMCA, we're really hitting all of those spirit, mind, and body things, which is a lot of fun.
Mike, did you have something?
Just, can you leave a couple of business cards? I'd
Certainly.
like to follow up with this for some other issues in town of Horicon that I think we could
Mhm.
partner with on something. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else? Somebody want to move this? Gene, second, John? Any further discussion, questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good luck.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Spend
for
your
the
money
opportunity to come
wisely.
and speak as well.
Yes. Hope to see you at Bluegrass in Heaven.
That's right. Lisa, maybe I'll drop some business cards off at your office. Is that right? Okay. All
Thank
right,
you
all.
guys.
Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
All right. Sure there. Okay. We're down to item B. Workshop to address the 14 applications for architects that are attached. Which are,
It's the first 12.
Uh-huh.
And the 5 after that, we've already addressed three out of those 17.
okay, so
So
we
we've
got,
already done the boys basketball, we've already done Lake George Winter Carnival. We've also already done up yonder environmental education.
okay. Said something else. Okay. So we're gonna discuss these. We have some proposals. Does everybody have a cheat sheet? Okay. If you look across there, you'll see what we gave them for the year before, 2022. And then what they're asking this year. So I just want to go down and make sure everybody's comfortable with what they're asking for. The Adirondack cycling advocates.
Excuse me, can I ask if anybody scored any of these?
I did not score them. I looked at them. What'd you score it?
I scored them all. Well, I scored the top. But I gotta say, a couple things about the scoring methods. We had a method in 2014 that was much easier. And the good part about the 2014 method was that after it was scored, there was a range. You handed those out, right?
Yes.
What's your one?
There was a range depending on the score of the amount that would be given. The problem with the new scoring that was set up in 2021 was that our events coordinator that set it up, it was based on 100 points, and it would be very, very difficult to get a whole 100 points. So the percentage, she would use it as a percentage against what was asked for. So in other words, if they only scored 50 points, it would be 50% of what they asked for, which really doesn't work. So if there's anybody wants to change anything that was previously set up in 2021 or previously, now is a good time to discuss what changes you want to make, because it's all set by resolution. We can always change a resolution.
So what is it that you want to change?
I'm
In
asking
2017.
committee what they want to do.
We want your opinion.
Not my opinion.
You gave me the stuff, obviously you have an opinion. You want to go back to the 2014 resolution? Is that
It
what you
would be
prefer?
much simpler.
Okay.
My only problem was, and maybe when, if Gina talks about economic impact of some of the four that I sent to her, I find that most of our events economic impact doesn't go up to $20 million, which has a score of 20 points. I think that part needs to be relooked at and the totals possibly relooked at. But that's something we can discuss after the fact. Since
So do you want to revise that and bring it back to us? And
Gina's willing to work on it with me.
that'd be great. John, you had a question?
Yeah, I mean, I like the old system much better than the new system. I voted against this. The old system, the little guy and the big guy could fill out the same application. It was more comprehensive, and the list of allowances was more comprehensive. This narrowed it down, took away capital expenditures, which is a very significant part of what we're trying to do in tourism promotion, because it's creating something that doesn't exist, that will exist and will help promote tourism. That's just one example, could give you 100. But the old list of what was allowable and not allowable seemed to be a lot more comprehensive than the current list.
You talking 2014 one?
Yes.
Okay. Gene?
I agree 100% with that, because this here that was made up, you got 20 pages application, 20
That's the
pages.
application. We're talking about the scoring sheet right now.
Well, but you have to read the applications,
Right.
try to make the scoring sheet, and the applications come in, like you say, the cycling, 1 to 28 pages. How do you score? You know, I'm sorry, I was very confused this year, and the print is too small. So, yeah, I think it's time to change. And years ago, like I was saying, we used to have people come in and line up along the wall. You get to talk to them, you get to feel see how excited those two were. They were, very outward. They were excited on what to do. To read somebody that says, "Oh, I'm going to bring 300 people in, 500 room nights," that's just numbers. So how do you?
I look forward to seeing the Wolf Fest.
Yeah, well, whatever the case may be, we're gonna go ahead with what we got now, but I'm talking about next year to make, even the applicants have to fill out a 20-page application. And if you really read this, a lot of the questions sometimes are asked on page 1 and then 7 is the same question.
Yeah.
So this was very confusing, and I'm glad
So if we went back to the 2014, would you be happy with that?
I would, and it comes out with the way Lisa said that if you score X amount of points, well, you get X amount of percentage of what you want. So if you score enough points, you get the whole thing. You only score half of it.
Yeah.
So I think it's time to go back to make some changes. And I like this, Lisa. This is good. Even a blind man like me can read it. That little one we brought last week, 2 weeks ago. I couldn't read it. I couldn't read reading glasses. But no, I think it's time. We got some new people on the committee. Is to think about, but I would like to see, we're going to spend a couple hours here doing this now. Have those people come in. It's so much easier. And even if you just give them a time, we should just let them come in. And I remember when I was running this, it would just start from the first person on the first sheet. They're coming in the door. All right, you're up. Give them 10 minutes, but you see the enthusiasm that some of these have been on here for years and years and years. They just keep going up more and more money every year, but they're not explaining to us why.
Okay.
Oh, that's just
If
my
we're gonna
2
bring 'em-
cents.
If we're going to bring them back, then we should do that.
I'd love
The
to see that.
applications we had 12 people in at our joint OCTAX meeting, representing about 8 or 9 different things. And you're right, it's interesting when you talk to them. So I don't have a problem with that either.
Chairman, can I make a legal suggestion? Just to clarify, there is a resolution that's in place. So I just want to kind of clarify, the committee could do 2 things. They could move forward with what you have in front of you under the existing resolution. And at a future meeting, we can work on and provide, and I can work with tourism to provide a new updated proposed resolution to make sure we have terms that the committee would like to do for future rounds of funding. Or you can do nothing today. We can change the resolution, which is going to take some time. And then when you have a new resolution in place, go forward on that new resolution. I don't know that you necessarily want to wait since you have the work product in front of you. But there is a resolution that governs this process right now that from a legal perspective, we need to follow until it's changed.
I agree. We have to stay with what we got today. And I think you should put a date, like maybe we'll get together and then start our new process in, let's say, September, because a lot of people want the money at the beginning of 2024 or 24. So you should have it in place before 2024 comes forward. But I think we have to stay with what we have now. Because a lot of these people, are looking for the money.
I would hope within 30 to 60 days with tourism in my office, we could have a draft together for the committee to review so that it is in place well in advance of when that next round when the funding for 2024 starts to come into play.
Okay, I wrote that down.
60 to 90?
No, 30 or 60.
okay.
Even 90 is good too. I mean, sometime in May or June, it's
Well, let's see how they do.
whatever.
Whenever they're ready, we'll look back at it.
I mean, I'm only speaking. Everybody kind of agree or disagree with what we're talking about. Change this a lot. I mean, I just love to see the people here because you can see how enthusiastic they are and
You can ask them first.
you can ask them, boy.
Okay. Yes, Kevin.
Are all the applications in for 2023 now?
These are the ones on this spreadsheet that I received.
Sure.
I sent out a email asking everybody that had applied last year to send in the application by the 13th of January, so we had an idea of what we were dealing with. And we do have some extras on the sheet that's.
But my question is for the calendar year 2023, you stick with this current application? Are all the applications in?
I would say probably not. The application that was put together and was passed in 2021 set two different dates.
Right.
So it all depends on what the
I mean,
committee
if you
wants
want
to
to
do.
come up and say starting in 2024, you're gonna use the older application, that's fine, but my question is, you're still gonna be having people put together this 20-page application for the balance of 2023. Is that?
If that's what the committee would like to happen.
Well, I think you said we put it up to the 13th of January.
I did.
Well,
in
this is the
order-
first of-
Because we missed
Right.
the fall.
But this is the
round.
1st of February, so
Yeah,
people
we
that didn't
missed the
send it
fall
in.
round, so. We tried to get the applications in, so we'd have some idea what we were doing in 2023.
But there's more to come, is what you're saying.
There may be more to come. Yeah. And I think it was agreed that we would look at the applications on a rolling basis, correct?
Correct.
So if something comes up during the year, they could obviously bring it back.
Right, that's fair. Fair. So just want to make sure.
Unless you want to change the application now. We will need to use the one that was accepted, I would think, for the year.
We could reestablish the 2014 scenario now. And then give Lisa and Gina and the attorney time to tweak it so that we can revisit it later and do that. And that way you would have the old application.
Or,
Now,
oh,
so you get anybody that
In a
comes
couple
wants
months. yes, okay.
to use a new application. Are you giving me hand signals?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I think we do have to continue to use the existing application until we either come up with a different resolution to go back to what we had before or come up with a different application. So I think for anything else that comes in at this point, we use this application until we change it by resolution.
Why can't we make a resolution and go back to the 2014?
You can,
Okay,
you can do whatever you want to do.
don't tell me that.
No, but I mean, literally, you can pass any resolution that you want regarding this topic. My suggestion is you give the tourism department and my office a little time to pull up the 14, to go through it and to coordinate with any members who may have input on it.
I had done an application 2016 prior to the event coordinator coming on board. I believe there might be some information that needs to be added to it from the county attorney's office. Possibly because we use what's in the application to the contract.
Correct.
So I believe there were a couple of things that might need to be added to this. But this is the application that I came up with in 2016. I don't know if I'm in that copy here.
Just 20.
Dennis?
Any
Yes, sir.
chance?
Well, I think, understanding what Mr. Attorney's saying, and we should leave whoever comes in the next 60 to 90 days, will have to fill out the old one. And after we get the new one passed, then anybody comes in June or
I've
July,
seen it 1,000
it'll
times.
be under the new one for 2024. Even though it might be.
Mr. Chairman,
2020.
I agree. I think we agree that we shouldn't
Yeah.
move forward on just
Right.
a random application without
No,
taking a
I-
chance to look at it.
Okay. That's the pleasure of the board. Okay. So. Are we ready to look at these 17 minus 3?
So I had a suggestion, Mr. Chairman, regarding Adirondack Cycling Associates Advocates. It's for promoting first-class cycling in Warren County, and what they've gotten, if their application is extensive and very detailed. This is really not an event. But I would like to see if the committee was agreeable to see this funded for $20,000 a year indefinitely. Barring any major changes. They're involved in construction of bicycle trails and so forth. They also involved in printing brochures, providing safety equipment. Just because we award somebody $20,000, if they don't use it because it's on a reimbursement basis, we're not going to spend it. I'd like to see them, because they are kind of Warren County group. I'd like to see them funded at $20,000 a year indefinitely, barring any major changes.
What group is this? John, you familiar with them?
Yeah, well, I'm on the board. And I was one of the founders back in 2011. We used to be called Warren County Safe Quality Bicycle Organization. Everyone thought that name was too long.
Yeah, it was.
So we're American Cycling Advocates. We do conventions, it's all volunteer. We do pay for the setups that are there with the pictures, and we do pay for the brochures, and we do go to schools and promote safety. And we do try and encourage the building of trails and signage for the trails and everything else, and and it's right. It's very difficult for us to nail down, for example, the hub up in by Mill Pond. We were going to pay for the signage for the mountain bike and hiking trails, but they haven't been done yet. We're working on the French Mountain Preserve, I call it. You call it McPhillips Preserve. And you know, you know how government is. We thought we allocated $10,000 for signage, you know, interpretive signage, trail signage, a lot of signage. And it's not cheap, not too expensive, but it's not cheap. And that just hasn't happened. So we have allocated monies towards these events, but there's been one delay or another in the bowl in Little Gore.
Is that what the money's for?
Yeah, so, you know, they do have to submit for it. I mean, if you want to allocate it and based on their submissions, because it's very difficult for them to nail down their costs for a specific year. So when they come in and they pay the invoice and they resubmit to the county for reimbursement based on the allocation they got from occupancy tax, I think would work. I think your idea is a good idea.
The other thing is in the contract, I think it's too specific. So we've already brought it back once and I'm gonna need to bring it back again. Because of them, it being so specific that an expense is not in the 2023 contract that was in the 2022 contract. So I'd like to make it more
No, that's a good suggestion.
broader so that we don't have to do that.
Okay.
Chair, if I could just for a moment, I would
Yes,
ask the
Larry.
committee to limit it just to 3 years. 3 years at a time, 3 years for the contract, not unlimited. I don't know what unlimited is. And I'd ask the committee if there's a motion to in that motion, include that broader language that you want, if it's not going to be a specific designated use for the funding.
Okay, thank you. Mike, you had something?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. This is more of an infrastructure kind of play that I think that this organization is doing in the sense of signage and trails and the like. Can't we structure some kind of fund that would hold this over year to allow them to complete this when there's travel problems getting something done?
Basically what we're talking about.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So I'm in full support of that. Maybe we could actually bump it up a little bit from time to time, because you've heard me talk about infrastructure. This is a big thing, and maybe along the same lines, our tourism department is very adept at creating brochures and travel guides and the like. Maybe we can shift some of that funding, not that I want to bury our tourism department, but instead of it coming from the cycling group and all the funding, maybe we take some of this on ourselves to help support that. And not necessarily to reduce their allocation, but to kind of take advantage of some shared resources that we might be able to have to make this happen a little bit faster and expend this for even more resources in signage and trail development.
Well, let's entertain a motion to do it for 3 years. I'd like to see him every year come in and give us an update where they are and how they're doing with the monies and whether it's enough or too much or.
And then
So,
what amount? Are we looking at the 23.5 that they've requested this year?
it's up to the committee.
Okay.
Anybody want to make a motion? Debbie? You want to expound? Mike's going to second it.
Can we say what the motion is?
Yes.
The motion would be to provide on a 3-year basis, but renewable. And I would like to know how many years have they received the 20,000? Because maybe we should go to the 23.5. Has it been going on for several years already?
Several, yeah. 5 years, would you say at least?
So
John?
Well, 3 years was fine. Let's see how it works.
Yeah, no, she's asking how long we've funded them.
Oh, you've
Several
funded
years.
us for a long time.
At 20,000?
No, we've come in at various things.
Okay.
So 20, there's no standard. But, 20 would be an allocation. If we spent it, fine. If we didn't, then you need to take a look at it. That's why I think the 3-year allocation is appropriate. And let's look at the ACA, how are they spending it? What's happening? So
Do you think 23.5 would? Do you think you need that?
if we need more, let them come in.
Okay,
Yeah, I would stay with the 20.
all right.
Yeah.
Mr.
And
Chairman, just
most-
a
most-
suggestion for the second also, is that
Yes.
they come in every year and provide us an update also
That's fine.
part of that. But I do second. that
Okay.
motion.
Does that cover everything
Well, what's the purpose of the funding?
to assist them with their program and their advocacy?
Trail development,
Trail
signage for
development,
trails,
education.
brochure,
General promotional.
general promotion, yeah. Safety training.
So 3 years with a yearly update, correct?
Correct. Is everybody set? Any further discussion, John?
Just one question for county council. Since I'm on the board of the ACA, should I be voting on this?
You should not be participating in that conversation.
Well, they asked me a question.
No,
Did, because he
that's
was on
fair.
the board.
As a decision maker, you should.
All right.
Are we ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
What? No, abstain.
Abstain. Let the record show. Thank you. Can we leave?
Chairman, you have a question?
Gina,
There was
thank
a,
you.
within their application, there was $5,000 that was specifically for the helmets and that safety. Different, because I would say that would, because it's all internal within Warren County. Is there anything with Parks and Rec or anything that would, help with that? From that safety training, because that was specific equipment, different than infrastructure or event promotion and or the event itself. I only throw that out there because, and other folks, if you were applications, that was the one thing that stood out that said, that's, you can't really, you went back to the actual occupancy tax law. That would be the one thing that you couldn't really say, oh, you could buy that. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So I don't know if there's something in Parks and Rec or, where that,
not sure.
throwing it out there.
Well, thank you, Gina. Anybody else? Anything else? Okay. Phew. Next. So the next one is Wine Festival. They got 40,000, they've asked for 50. It's a pleasure of the board.
Can I make one more suggestion?
Gina, yeah.
Say I'm gonna keep my mouth shut, but I think everybody on the board should see what some of these groups got from the beginning. We should have a list saying in 2016, you got this much, and 17, you got this much. Because you'll find out every year it's $5,000 higher. And my reading these things, they start out at $5,000 10 years ago, and now they're looking for 50,000. I mean, there's got to be a point that they should have enough money to make these programs successful. And if you really look back, and I think in 2006, there is something in the first resolution saying we'd help them for 3 years. And then stop or decide to move on, but we haven't followed through on that. But it just say from 40,000 to 50,000, what's the extra 10,000 going to bring? Is it going to bring, 10,000 more people or
Well, they've got,
500 more room nights?
they've got attendance at over 8,000. Sasha's very good about statistics. These aren't grab the air statistics. And they got room rates at 4,800. Kevin?
I know what the rule says, but if you're not for profit and you're doing this, if you're not making a profit on it, you need all the help you can get from the county and action tax. It's not like they're banking. If you were to give the 50,000, it's not like they're not for profit, it's banking that 50,000 and carrying it over, they're gonna come back to you. I think you gotta treat the not-for-profits a little bit different than you do the ones who make a profit off the events.
Right.
And, you know, I would be against cutting a non-for-profit just because they've gotten 50,000 every year. Well, they may expend 50,000 every year and they're not for profit. I've seen you fund profitable events, then they come back and you give them money, that may be one you want to look at, but a not-for-profit. You know, I think you have to draw a line there and say, you know, they're doing a lot of it with volunteers. A lot of them are, they're not paid staff, so I think you gotta treat the not-for-profits. I wouldn't be against cutting some of these not-for-profits just because they've gotten X number of dollars every year.
Okay.
That's just my opinion, and I've been in a non-for-profit for 50-some years.
This is definitely for profit. Yeah, Gina?
So to Supervisor Merlino's point, Lisa had asked me to crunch some numbers on all of these. So I went back to 2018, 2019, 2021, and 2022. I went through all of the Smith Travel Research reports, pulled out 2020 because they couldn't be in there and they weren't in 2021. But just so you understood what was the trajectory of those days when the event was. I couldn't see it as getting 4 nights. The Sunday night, the only time we had a Sunday night was if it was July 1st. You know what I mean? The way the dates fell. So that week 2018 for that that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if we were at that for 2018 over 2017, we jumped in occupancy from 55% on a Friday night to 79%. And then from on Saturday night, which is their big night, we jumped again, 2017 to 2018, we jumped from 67% occupancy to 89. So that was 2017 to 2018. Then when we fast forward to 2019, on that same Saturday for them, although it was now Smith Travel updates as they get additional information. So we jumped from 79.7, which originally was 79.5, up to 89.1% on their Saturday night stayover. The Friday night, we jumped from 60% up to 81%. And both years, we jumped in the first year from 2017 to 2018, we jumped 13 and 40% respectively on room rates. So that goes back to occupancy tax. The following year, we jumped respectively 13%. We dropped a little bit on the Saturday night room rate. We dropped 2%. But the Friday night was they were going to jump that. Now we fast forward 2021. You know, we didn't have anything in 2020. And 2021, you know, they went back and forth. Should we have the event? Should we not? We didn't want to be the first biggest event. We didn't. So we did, you know, we had people in town because it was getting ready for July 4th, and you know, schools were not all full, and you know, we still had a lot of pandemic stuff happening. So our occupancy in 2021 was for Friday night was 77% and Saturday 85%. So we did see a drop from, you know, pre-COVID time because no event was in town. So now fast forward from 2021 to 2022, with them in town, we jumped from 77% occupied up to 83% on that Friday night, 7.9%. And we jumped 3% on the Saturday night stay over, up to 87% occupied. Now, we don't know short-term rentals, and I also don't have any numbers for campgrounds. You know, we have 5,000 campsites in June, so I don't know the impact of this on the campsites. The other thing is we saw on Friday night, we saw 11% jump in occupancy tax collections, you know, or their room rate, and 16% on Saturday night. So I just throw that out just as another piece of information on an event that is, you know, a for-profit. They have to, you know, they can't stay in business if they don't continue to grow. But on the flip side, to your point about, you know, when are they just making money off of the money that they're getting? So that's up to you, but I did have those numbers for you to think that.
Well, I think those numbers are impressive. I mean, she's always maintained that she's had a successful wine festival. John?
Gina, did you get any economic?
I do,
I'm just wondering where it would fall in the scoring.
I'm a little confused about the reason for the request. They're a great event. Sasha deserves all the credit in the world. Their expenses are 400,000. I'm rounding up. Their revenue is 524. So they're making $124,000 in profit. So what's the 50,000 for?
Well, I think everybody should read what you just read, because I'm having in my hand here, page 51, 52, and 53. I mean, they spend a lot of money on websites, public relations, marketing. I mean, there's one in here that the ticket revenue is 356,230.18. Merchandise sales is 12,000. I mean, they have it here. So,
Okay.
So is the extra money for event promotion?
Well, they're using it for promotion, but does it ask her in that application if she made a profit?
Oh, we know she made a profit.
No, I know that, but I mean, is that one of the questions in the application?
In the, on page 18 of her budget form are those numbers that Don just mentioned. Expenditures of 399, 248, 17, income of 522. And last year she did make a profit as well.
John, I not to argue with you, but the point is we give these events our tax money. And then as Gina's explaining to us, we see an increase in our tax. From the numbers that we have. The question is where you draw the line. Debbie?
It says here on page 51 that they received 35,000 for the 2020 festival, which was canceled. Then does that money come back to us, or they hold on to that money?
No, comes back.
Comes back.
actually, what happened was that year, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Gina.
They had already expended a lot of money on the advertising, and they showed all the expenses in advance, so Lake George was already promoted. And then, you know, because we all went into the pandemic, we didn't know when we were gonna open or not, or if we were gonna go out, and, you know, so I know that, I remember that they came, and some of those things were paid, not 40,000 or 35,000, but yeah, there was some expenses that were created, you know, part of that.
Good point.
We paid over $200,000 that year for that type of thing.
Yeah,
For several different events.
Yeah.
That came back.
and they're paying the balloon shop, you know, everything that was supposed to have already was, you know, the train that left the station for those events.
Anybody else? Thoughts,
No.
figures?
those things Gina put up was 100% on the money, but do we know every one of those rooms that got rented was for wine and beer festival?
We do not. We
I
do
mean,
not.
that's my point. I mean, yeah, we could have had 500 rooms rented on a Saturday night all over the county. maybe only 100 were for the wine and beer festival, or 200, you know. It's tough. That's why I say it's tough to not have somebody standing here and talk to you, right? You know, to know the answers to some of the stuff. You read this here, I mean, everybody, I'm a nonprofit too on my business, but I don't make any money right now. But I still have to pay the taxes.
You can always give her what she got last year, 40,000. She's had that for a couple of years.
Yeah, I would like to keep with that, because keep raising it until we really. I mean, I'm not against her, and she does a great job. It's a beautiful festival, brings a lot of people in, but. There are a lot of people that come in for something else for that day or that weekend to go someplace else. That's not usually, especially that time of year, is not only one event going on. Ice Castle, we know what's going on. You know, so you can really count, especially the time of year, but. Barricade, you know, you can count that because you almost count every motorcycle that runs up and down the road. So, yeah.
Mike?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. You know, for most of you probably know, but I've participated in this event as one of the vendors, and I've been there a few years, not every year. I was there last year. I don't intend on doing it again. It's not the best for what I do, but I can guarantee you that there are a lot of people from out of town that come through those gateway every day that this thing is open. So if you think about profit or nonprofit, as long as we agree to say if something happens like the pandemic and they can get reimbursed, that's a good way to do that. But there's always risks associated with this. And last year, I think I saw it on one of the pages, their attendance was down, I believe. It was 90 degrees and there was no breeze and the sun was out and it was a little brutal out there. So there's always a risk with some of this. And as long as we take care of them, I think that's the most important thing. And I don't have any opinion about 40 versus 50.
Okay, John,
Why don't we split the difference, 45?
what's the pleasure of the board? Is that your resolution? Is that your
Yes,
resolution?
I'll make that I'll make that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I
Opposed? Okay.
Thought that Mark was going to join us. He could today. Apparently. This information that I'm passing out is confidential. So please do not leak it to the anywhere.
Live stream.
Pardon me?
Not really confidential.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Well, they can't read it.
I'm on this board.
two of them.
Yeah, two of them.
Yeah.
Extras?
Wait a minute, I'm not officially on that. Yeah. Not officially on this.
I can.
No, you're not official.
I'm missing one, I guess. Well, I gotta get you one too, don't I?
Well, we don't make them around file with the minutes.
No, true.
Nothing. Everybody ready? What's the pleasure of the board with the balloon festival? Debbie?
I'd like to propose a resolution to waive the rules regarding the maximum and provide the 90,000.
That's your motion? Somebody want to second that? John?
I'll second it, but I have a suggestion too. So when it comes to discussion,
Go ahead.
I've suggested, I don't know if it's a good idea, but the consensus of the committee can decide that. That there are the miscellaneous expenses. There's the DPW from Warren County for the overtime, the sheriff's office for overtime, the city of Glens Falls for trash disposal and other expenses. We have fire and EMS expenses. Those kind of things, I thought could come out of a separate pool. That one pool will be for the creation of the event. And the other pool might be for all those other expenses, rather than have them come out of the creation of the event expenses. And they are related, but and even this year, I think we took out the DPW and the sheriffs. Didn't we take that out of a separate sales tax allocation?
Don't remember, John.
I wasn't in on any of that, so I don't know.
Did it come out of the? Yeah, see, I'm not sure. And it was
What
just
Mark
as,
usually puts in for are the hotels bills and propane, that type of.
yeah, that comes out of, and everything the committee does and the buying of the merchandise and everything else, and we do get revenues from that. So just a suggestion, but it is the 50th anniversary. They are going to need more money this year. So one way of doing it is give them the requested 90 as what's on the table. Or the other one is to create two separate pools for the money. One pool would be for the creation of the event. The other pool would be for all these miscellaneous expenses. Like I said, DPW, sheriff, fire, EMS.
Do they have any kind of estimate what those expenses are, what they're looking for?
Yeah, they do. I think it's in the package, isn't it?
The South Queensbury Fire Department, is that part of this? Is that what that was?
Yeah, well, they would like to get some compensation. I'm still working with them over the amount. One proposal was 5,000, but we're still working on that.
So I don't believe it's in his financial operations projection. He doesn't pay those directly, correct? Those are expenses for the county. So possibly he needs this 90 besides us setting up a separate code for those things.
Yeah, well, we have
He
a
doesn't
meeting,
pay.
we have a meeting tonight. I'm not officially on the committee. But I do try and help out. I understand I might be appointed, but
Item 300 Queensbury, South Queensbury Fire Company, Adirondack room expenses, $5,000.
well, I mean, if they're asking for 90 and they're gonna take some of that out of the 90, okay. And that's,
I don't think he normally pays those things.
well, normally it's not 5,000. Normally it's less than that, but the EMS and fire people are saying, hey, we can't do this for nothing.
Understood. So what
Yeah.
I'm saying is, perhaps Mark needs the 90 to put on the event, and we should, in addition to that, have another code for the EMS, the DPW overtime, that type of thing.
Yeah.
What kind of numbers does he have? How many people come and stay overnight?
See, that's very difficult. I mean, he's got 100,000 people there. And who's gonna be able to
John?
So,
ask that question? You know, can you imagine if you're in line to get into the balloon festival and that somebody's asking you all these questions, and I think it would be a mess.
so they're estimating their expenses are right there on page 74 are gonna be $305,450. And the revenues are 266,000. So in their revenues, they have the 90,000 that's on the table to give to them. They're still expecting to lose $40,000. If they do what they want to do.
Okay.
Either that or they're gonna have to cut back. So anything less than 90,000 is something they're gonna have to be cutting back on something.
Mike?
Chairman, thanks. I thought we talked about this the last meeting we had. It was this incremental 40,000 was for the anniversary. It sounds like what was proposed is that we're finding a way to get around the $50,000 max and give the balloon festival even more money because it's 50,000 plus for incidentals, plus more for incidentals. I'm not sure I'm totally on board with that yet.
There is a bit of a conundrum there. We just gave Civic Center 250,000.
The 50,000 max is set by resolution. That can be changed.
Yeah, boy, the hell do those, yeah.
But then you'll have other events queuing up for.
Yeah.
Look at the next 4 or 5, they're all 50,000 already.
To follow up, Mr. Chairman. So that was my thought, keep the 50, but do a separate line item. And it's the extra 40,000 for the 50th anniversary.
The legal
Right, and
question,
that kind of,
the legal question is whether you can give more than $50,000 to the same entity. So I've been waiting to see where the committee goes, and I can't give you a firm answer, but it would be subject to a legal review if you can do more than $50,000 under the current resolution.
So if we give them the 50 out of the events and then we give them 40 out of OCTAX, like we do with Heritage Hall, gave them $250,000. Nobody bet in my line. Well, I did. We did it anyway. Ben?
Thanks, Chairman. Supervisor McGowan, myself, a number of other supervisors have volunteered for the event, holding the barrel for donations that go to offset some of the overtime costs for our DPW and sheriffs and those folks. As a transplant from New England, if I see a license plate from any of the 6 New England states, I ask people, you staying in the area, and I'm guessing that 2/3 to 3/4 of them are staying in the area. I don't know if it's Warren County, but they're not just driving home after the event, whether it's in the morning or the afternoon launches. And while I'm here, because I've got to leave, I was at an event last night at the Queensbury Hotel. Ed Moore came up and we had a nice conversation, and he asked me to extend his appreciation for not just the committee, but the board's trust and support of the cool insuring arena. I also found out from Jeff Mead last night too, that the Thunder hockey team is on a pace for record attendance since the Red Wings left town. And basketball next month is going to be huge. It's going to be huge, and not just Glens Falls and town of Queensbury, but all of many of the communities throughout Warren County really benefit from that. And the other news is that I think we'll start to see some concerts and special events also being planned at the Civic Center, which draw a number of people into the cool insuring into the area. So thanks.
Just back to the motion. How much do we generate with this donations? Do you know? Does anybody know?
I don't have that.
I mean, is that even a reasonable thing to do?
I think it's,
A world
I think
class.
it was 24,000. Not mistaken, we collected the blue.
I'm sorry,
Buckets. something
in the
like-
buckets?
Yeah.
It was over 30,000
30.
2 years ago or so when I did it.
No, but last year, I think it was the 24, 26.
Because you put some in your pocket.
Yeah, I wish I could. The bucket got heavy that night.
Yeah.
They do get heavy.
But you know what? I'm just saying myself, people put it in, they put $10 bills in and $5 bills in and one, some just say, that's all I haven't changed. You take a credit card, no, and leave the change in your pocket. Don't worry about it. But nobody fights it.
Yeah.
Maybe 200 cars go past and 2 or 3 will keep the window up, won't stop. So I mean, so it's not a threatening thing, but I guess they made it sound like it was, but.
John?
Yeah, and if you look through their expenses on pages 74 and 75, you will not see DBW, sheriff overtime, what the city charges to have the event down there. That must be coming out of a separate pool already. So this 90,000 doesn't even include that. And at least on paper, if they do everything they want to do, they're still $39,450 short.
Chairman Garrity?
If we have the lawyer here, why don't we ask him how we go about doing this? Legally, so we take care of it. What does he suggest you do to raise the amount to 90,000 for the room?
I have to go back and look at the resolutions to see what the authorization has been over the years. There's a tremendous number of resolutions. So I'm kind of copping out with an off the cuff answer, but I think the answer is going to be that the board has to modify the guidelines that it's passed for doing these awards in the past. But
If we're talking here events,
Would it be,
yes, we are talking events, which is different than the Civic Center and different than CVB and different from
that was
tourism.
my point. In the event, we give them 50,000. And then from our tax, we can give them whatever else we want.
I believe that 50,000 comes from this resolution, and a resolution passed 2011 maybe.
Yeah, I need to go through, I have a very large 3-ring binder with all of the resolutions and local laws, and I once sat down to try to read through it, and I think I stopped at like 2008.
Gotcha.
You're singing to the choir.
But, you know, that's not an answer, that's a complaint, and the reality is part of revising the current underlying resolution for how we're doing business and how the committee and county is doing business, i.e. going back to the 2014 resolution, is the opportunity to kind of put all those pieces together and get the guidance from the committee of where you want to go in the future.
That's the point. I think the committee is leaning towards 90,000, but they want to find an avenue to do it correctly. That's what we need to do. Correct. I mean, I think most people, and it's a one shot. 50-year anniversary of the Little Fest, so you want to raise. Maybe do it, what you suggested, 50 plus something else, but. Why don't we let the attorney do that, as long as there's, have some consensus for the committee, what you want to do. If you agree that you want to raise it up because of the 50th anniversary, and that's a huge event. And then give them time to work out.
Well, I wouldn't want to raise the 50. I'd say I wouldn't raise the 50.
That's what I was just gonna say. I think we should leave that 50 alone because it's been there for years. And then if the other 40 can come under another resolution because it's a special part of that event. Otherwise, everybody in this sheet that's 50 now, next year is gonna want 60 or 70.
Yep.
And that's, and just to be, that's not an answer I'm going to give off the cuff in this committee meeting. It's something that we need to look into and make sure we're comfortable with.
There's reason to adjourn.
Then I'll amend the resolution to make it the 50,000, so we can move forward with that, and then we'll address the other.
Mike?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to suggest that this is the anniversary event. This is a separate event. I'm reading through some of this. There are different activities that are planned that weren't part of the normal balloon festival. And maybe we can get away with it by just saying we're providing the anniversary event.
Other people here that have submitted 2 or 3 or more applications. Did you second her motion or?
I did, but
Oh, John, thank you.
I'd like to keep the commitment for 90 to let the Bloom Festival know we're gonna try and let legal work out how we have to do that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Wait.
What is it?
What's the motion?
She amended her motion to make it 50, but you're not agreeing to the amendment.
We'd rather keep it 90 and let's see if we can work it out.
So this isn't time sensitive? Well, we just got the money for 21, so I would guess it's not sensitive.
They're planning their event, of course,
Yeah,
for September, but it doesn't happen till September, so.
yeah.
I don't think legally we can do the 90 right now.
I wouldn't do the 90.
And I'd
I
like to
think
do
that'd
it
muddy the
now.
waters. We need to get this resolved.
The committee can do 50 today. And if there's an ability to do more at a future meeting, then you could consider that, or you could not move forward with the 50 today and wait until I can provide some more detail on if there's a means, legal means to provide additional funding.
I think we're treading on thin ice here. We've always had the 50,000. It's a good, solid number. Most of our applications are not 50,000, although they seem to be increasing. As time goes on, but I think if you make an exception, you're going to have spend the rest of your time here explaining why you did it to everybody else.
Well, since I seconded that and I'm considering the amending. The amending is 50,000 with the commitment from this committee that we're going to see what we can do for the other 40,000. And I can support that.
Okay, you go with that, Deb? Rest of the board, anything further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yep, 7 minutes to lunchtime. Adirondack Sports Complex. Fast pitch softball. 50,000. Any comments? Too bad and different, John.
I was somewhat confused. This is not for a specific event. This is for January 1st through December 31st of 2023. As that says in the application, so it's for an entire year's activities.
As it always has been. It has always been that way.
Oh,
We've had
okay.
several-
All right, never noticed,
Several tournaments.
because it's the fast pitch softball tournaments.
Tournaments.
20 weekends
20 weekends.
last year.
Got some impressive numbers here. Did you do anything with this one, Jim?
Have all kinds of data on it.
Yeah, he's full of data.
So they did a minimum of 4.2 million in room revenue. That they could actually show based on their attendees and where they stayed. So they do a pay to play program where you can't have your team there unless you stay at their partner hotels within the market. Several years ago, just to give you a little history, third party came in to work with them and our hotels pushed back on that because that third party, they were putting a rebate back to the organizer because he's paying his building and all of that. Plus they wanted 10% on top of that. And the hotels pushed back because when the teams needed to make changes, it was on the onus of the hotels. You know what I mean? The person's not gonna call the third party. It's kind of like if you book on Expedia, you want to make a change, you really can't. The hotel can't help you. They say, oh, you booked with Expedia, I can't take your changes. You know what I mean? So that's what happened with this third party. And there was a big pushback from our hotels that said, you know, you're not gonna take 10% of my money, you know, and then anyway, so fast forward, Doug went back, worked with all of the hotels who wanted to partner. He could show the room nights. And then they do a bit of a rebate back to him, but not an additional 10%. That money stays with our properties and within the market. And then, so I crunched the numbers. So he had 4 tournaments that had to be canceled in the midst of July because our room rates were too high. People said, their team said, you know what, we can go to Connecticut and play there for $50 to $80 less a night per family. You know, so with this whole recession, it did impact him during our peak times this summer. So originally he had 28 weekends scheduled between January and December. So right now, if you were here this past weekend, you would have seen softball players all over the place. They were here, whether it was they were, you know, hanging around for Stews and Brews because they'd already played, or, you know, their parents were, or they were at the Ambrosia Diner. I know I was there after Mass on Sunday morning. There was 3 teams in the Ambrosia Diner. So I knew that they were, you know, at the Baymont or Fairfield or somewhere nearby. Anyway, so I crunched his numbers based on because he shows his numbers because it runs all through him. And the hotels report back to him because, you know, they're going to give him the rebate. So he is motivated to collect that rebate, but also to get the numbers of the room nights. So the hotel, you know, it's a 2-way street because they want the business as well, especially, you know, on our slower times. So the economic impact for him, so I crunched a few things. So if his estimated room night demand, which actually he had sent me all of his numbers. So as confirmed with each of the hotels, there was 11,940 rooms booked over the whole course of the year. He had 285 teams, 91 of them were local teams. So they still eat and all that. And when we run the economic impact of sporting events, they're higher because kids eat more. You know, there's more dollars that are spent for those other amenities, those other expenditures when you're in town. Because the other thing is the team, it's a double elimination. So he kind of forces them to stay overnight because, you know, you still have the second game. So you play one game, you still have to stay overnight to play your second game. You know what I mean? So you're forced to do that. So it is good for us. But anyway, back to his day attendees, his overnight attendees were closer to 9,600 people over time, you know, because the family would come. And it's girls. Girls travel with more than boys. When you have a boys tournament, 5 boys get in the car with 1 mom or dad and go. When it's girls, the girl comes with a full posse of family. Seriously, there's all kinds of research that show the difference between girls and boys tournaments. This is all girls softball, indoor softball tournaments. So the day attendees were 3,000, and crunching these numbers, you know, his direct sales based on his budget of what he spends on everything from umpires and lodging specifically for them and food and beverage just for them locally and all that. His direct sales are 5 million, his total business sales are 9 million. The return on investment of the dollars is 706%.
Wow.
So that's just based on last year's tournaments where he couldn't do, you know, based on what he could do with the 20 tournaments. And he has the backup, and the hotels will be in here to tell you that.
Good. Any questions? Yes, Ben.
Just a quick comment. My nephew and his fiance are coming up from Rhode Island this summer for a tournament, and one's late 20s, mid 30s. And when they go away for a 5-hour trip, they're staying at nice places, and they're not eating at fast food restaurants. I mean, they're going all out. We offered to have them stay with us. No, they want to stay at the best accommodations and really let their hair down and have a good time. So,
And he has really good, there's good competition at his. If you look at his website, you can see all the weekends that they're here. And we knew when that dome collapsed, all the business that was not here because they didn't have teams.
Mike.
Mr. Chairman, thanks. Just if I can just ask Gina about her number. Gina, did you say that the hotel revenues were 4.2 million?
Yeah. When you look at, you know, the number of room nights, and what, yeah.
You know, at 4%, that's significantly more than the 40,000, 45,000 is looking for.
Yeah.
50.
And then when you look at, you know, of those our hotels make that money, but if you are people in, you know, it's all that.
Yeah.
And it's not all, it's all, you know, it's year round. It's not just, it's one of those underbellies of business that you may not see all the time, but when we didn't have it, it was really.
So is that a motion?
I'll make that motion for, what was he asking for? 45?
50.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Kind of a no.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Good job, Mike.
One other thought on that, because I made a bunch of notes on this too, was this particular type of sport or event, it's sustainable because there's always kids coming up in that, or, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So the same teams might come, but it's not the same families, it's not the same, you know, the kids that grow down and grown up. So we do want this to stay in our.
Okay, thank you, Gina. We appreciate it. Albany Rods and Customs, Inc. Car show weekend. Been getting 50. It's getting 25.
They were getting 25, now they want 50. I just want to point out one thing. On their application, which is on page 12, they give that money away, $25,000. So the only thing that they have told us regarding the request for additional funding is in their letter. We're requesting an increase in funding to make the 2023 Adirondack Nationals an even greater success. The increase of funding will allow us to keep admission costs consistent, bring on a well-known and costly celebrity presence, great prizes, and still allow us to get back to the local community. So they've been 25,000 for a very long time, and they give, as they pointed out, they give. At the end of the day, they give a lot of that away.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Another for-profit, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
This is a not-for-profit,
This is not for profit.
nonprofit.
It's quite the event. They have a lot going on. I have been to a lot of these. Well, you're thinking instead of giving away 25, they're gonna give away the 50?
I think they should get 50. No, I don't think they should. You want to increase it, I would say maybe increase it 5,000. It's up to you. It's up to the committee, but I don't believe they need 50,000.
Mike?
Mr. Chairman, they moved, right? They used to be in June, if I'm not mistaken, weren't they?
No,
When was that?
It's always the weekend after Labor Day.
Okay,
The Americade, the motorcycles have moved.
that's the one. Thank you very much.
was this one of the ones I sent you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Well, this one, the hard part is for them. You know, we can say however many people, but we don't know. Let me go back. We're really flat on, the time that they're here because they've been here, you know, it's a mature event. So we haven't seen like growth in the overnight rooms. Hang on, because it's the same month of Balloon Fest, in terms of the occupancy staff or occupancy when they're here. So when they were here. So they're here that, you know, they start to come in. So this past year, 2022 over 2021. We did see significant, we saw 5% growth on Friday night of occupancy, 4%, 4.5% on Saturday. We do see a little bit of stay over on Sunday night. Again, it's an older crowd, so they're not all going to work. And then we were flat on room rates, except for Saturday night. We saw a jump of 4.5% on room rates, up to 225 for them. So that was over the 2021 to 2020 to 2021. If you recall, in 2020, when we had no events with COVID, we still had cars everywhere. It was like we didn't have a car show, but we had a car show.
Yeah.
When you go back to previous years, so the event has grown. The biggest thing though is how much we have to spend on, there's so much need for all of the sheriff's department, you know. It's also not a big, it's not a big food and beverage event, like, let's say a sporting, you know, sports kids are here. Because what happens, as you know, people camp out, and when the mayor's changed the parade, it's hurt some hotels, it's hurt some restaurants, you know, they'll tell you that, because people are camped out, they've gone to, you go to any Price Chopper, you know, they're packed, Oscars, you know, all to go foods. And they're blocking our own restaurants, so people don't go there. So we do see that, you know, just conversation, you know, just throw that out to you, so, you know.
It is an annoying event to have happen in your community. We are fortunate, like George, we have 2 ambulances. You cannot get through the village for the 2 or 3 days of that weekend. So fortunately, we put an ambulance in the north end and an ambulance in the south end, and hopefully we can get to anybody that really needs us. The fire department's just totally different. They can't even have a fire company.
Thank God what the sheriff's department does do, you know, whether they've got somebody planted in the center.
Yeah.
Of, you know, the street.
But it's a big, there are a lot of sheriffs there. There's a lot of activity.
I would ask, I don't know, and this would be a Paul Tackett question, you know, when you look at their promotion, it's so Albany based. If we could help with that in any way to get it further out. I mean, I know they do stuff through Hemmings. I don't know, if you looked at, you know, their promotion line items, it was all more local. I don't know your thoughts on that. That would be, you know, another conversation for another day.
Thank you, Gina. Anybody want to make a proposal, move this thing? Before it gets dark? Lisa, you want to make a proposal?
Pardon?
I'm just kidding. John?
Well, they've traditionally asked for 25. They've doubled that, 50. Probably don't expect to get 50,
I would think not.
so 35.
Okay. Anyone want to second that?
That's reasonable.
35,
Okay.
okay. Any discussion? Mike?
Mr. Chairman, do we have the economic calculator on this thing to know, Gina?
Well, I try to do that, but I don't have real numbers in there, it's like.
It's a free for all, Mike.
Well,
You know what I mean?
that's kind of where I was going. Based on your comments, do we want to continue to promote this? Is a question that I have based on what you said. And I see every time after
He'll tell you.
every time after this event's over with, I can tell how crazy the event was by how much rubber's left on the streets.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
The only thing I could glean was if you looked at their income and tried to extrapolate, $15, whatever their wristband is to get how many people bought, to get on the grounds of Fort William Henry. But that doesn't compare to all of the other people that are camped out who've not walked onto that property. You know what I mean? So, the numbers are big for the number of people here, but there's a lot of day trippers that come up from Albany for Saturday or just Friday or.
I would guess that half the cars there are not part of the thing. They're just independent. They come up, they park early. They'll come up and they'll get a spot in the village and they'll spend the day in the village at bar or restaurant and whatever. And it's but 3,500.
Question, the activity you mentioned, the rubber on the road, so the risk activity that takes place on public roads. Is that something that we're supporting and endorsing?
No,
This is not. Well,
the sheriff's department has made a stellar attempt to prevent that. And they've done a good job. The problem is in the dead of night, you get some guy out on the Bolton Road. Can lay your rubber for 3 miles and not see anybody. But
so the showcasing, the showboating that goes on,
that's all private,
but it's on Route 9, right?
mostly on Route 9. A little bit on the Bolton Road.
It's not the event, it's the, participants that come up with their own vehicles to make some.
Yeah. Well, you got a hot rod, and there's no place to drive it, you can go up to Lake George and have at it. That's what they do. It's a good show. I love to go down there and look at the cars. You go through the event cars there. That's if you like cars, they got cars and trucks and motorcycles and they've done a stellar job with them. It's unbelievable the money they put in them. And then you go out on the main road, you can see all kinds of junk. Rat rods.
Well, why don't we just take an extra 10 grand and put cameras up on the road? Right, we can check license plates and give tickets, like going through a yellow light.
Yeah. Check with the sheriff. So we got a proposal for 3,500. Anybody got any?
35,000.
35,000, I'm sorry. Wishful thinking. Everybody ready? Call the question, all in favor?
I'm
Opposed? Carried.
Mr. Chairman, what I'd like to suggest in regards to this particular event, that we ask Mayor Blaze to come in. If we are considering maybe not funding this event in the future and finding from him the importance of what this event means to him.
The hot rods?
Yeah.
He takes the brunt of all the trouble. The town leases out our parking on Westbrook for the officials that are at the car show. But
I mean, you made a couple comments there on this event that concerns me is that if you can't get your fire engines out on the street or your EMS response time, that becomes a real issue from a public safety perspective, but maybe Mayor Blaze can shed additional light on this committee in regards to this event, if we want to continue to, I'm not saying I'm proposing to abolish the event, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about, you know, the positive impact versus.
do you want to table it and have the mayor?
No, I'm gonna support the 35,000, but going forward, I'd like to have him here to explain to us next year the importance of this event to his community.
Okay,
That's reasonable.
yeah, it is. He's very outspoken.
Oh, well, the new mayor, whoever the new mayor is then.
March 31st, he's been
Is he? Okay.
52 years.
We met and talked about the public safety concerns that they have during this. We met with the mayor one time saying, you know, they really need to put emergency routes and tow the vehicles.
Yeah,
And I think they're reluctant to do that. I mean, that's what we had to do with the garage sale. We have certain roads that have to be kept open so you can access, you know, and we told them. And I know it's a hard thing to do, but that's the only way up there. You're right. They can't get a fire truck out there. It'll get corrected when you have a tragedy.
that's,
And that's the thing. You don't want to wait for a tragedy.
yeah, don't even mention it.
We could have done the same thing. We entered the town board declared certain routes, emergency routes. And if you're parked in a no parking zone during the garage sale, guess what? They're going to get on a hook and they're gonna tow your vehicle. And, you know, we don't, all you gotta do is call 112 and that's, you know, have to tow any. So that's one of the things we talked with the mayor. That, you know, you should designate emergency routes, but you really gotta tow people, you know, I mean, he tries to be a friendly village, I don't hate him for that. They don't like the tow, but that's, you're gonna have a tragedy and everybody's gonna be up in arms, and we tried to avoid that up in Warrensburg with the garage sale, and it's worked somewhere.
Yeah, it's an issue. Kevin, there's no question about it. Let's do one more. Barricade.
Make that motion, Mr. Chairman, for 50,000.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
You that anxious to go home,
I do is make the motion.
huh? What's the pleasure of the board here? I'm waiting here. You guys want to stay a while longer and get some of these done, or? Jack?
No, what I would like to do, and I mentioned it to Mr. Wild, that this is the first opportunity I've had to look at some of their projections and costs associated, because I haven't been on this committee before. I'd like to have an opportunity to read through this packet to make what I want to call just decision going forward. I mean, I've
Right.
heard some good information about some of the events, the history of the events. This is the first I've seen this packet, so I'd like to have a little bit of time to look at it in a little bit more detail. going
Okay.
forward.
What's the board think? You want to meet again next week?
I really would like, really should be out of here soon.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, there's one more, and it's the boys basketball. That's happening in March. It's the next one on the list.
We've already
You
done,
already approved that one?
we,
Okay.
47,000.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we did that when we did Winter Carnival. So what's a good day for everybody next week? You're looking at the week of the 6th.
We want to talk about possibly the others. What you want to do about that?
Yeah. Let's set a date and we'll talk about
Okay.
that.
What are we gonna do the bottom?
But we have several other.
Yeah, what are we gonna do with the rest of them?
Now we got 7 or 8. The town of Horkin, Trial Lakes and the Warrenburg bike rally. Are included with it.
Thursday anywhere?
Thursday. Hang on. I have something in the afternoon. So you want to meet again at 10:30?
30 on the 9th.
10:30 on the 9th.
We move it to 10 o'clock.
We can do that. You're pressing it, but we can do that. $10.
That's a Thursday, so the 19th is a Thursday.
You doing Wednesday or you got something going on?
Thursday?
What day you doing?
Thursday, the 9th. I don't have anything. I got a
No.
town meeting in the afternoon.
Do we have something, John? On the 9th?
We're on the 7th.
Okay.
Okay. Now I have one more thing I want to discuss. One of the reasons I wanted to move some of these projects back out to the towns. We don't have an occupancy tax person in tourism anymore. Now, Lisa and Paul have stepped up and helped us out, but this isn't Lisa's job. It's taken a lot of time. It's very time consuming. You can see 260 pages of applications to plow through. I would like this board to make a recommendation to the full board that we go out and hire somebody now to do this for us full time. We have a, gotta wait your turn. We have a job description and we're ready to roll. John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a meeting with both Paul and Lisa yesterday. We talked about the positions. I'd actually like to table that discussion if we could until the next meeting. I'd like to discuss it with the tourism committee as well on what we think the direction going forward might be for the tourism office and filling some of the positions that are vacant there.
Okay. Not gonna help, but. Okay. So. I entertain a motion to adjourn, John.
All right, just one more thing, and then I'll make that motion too. But just a heads up that the Joseph Warren Center, which is going to be a museum and research and educational center, unique here in Warren County. We're going to try and recreate the building closest to Gurney Lane as close as we can to a mid-18th century look building with a potential statue out in front for Joseph Warren. And like I say, our county's named after Joseph Warren. It'll be unique, and we think it'll be very attractive to locals and visitors. But they're going to need some kind of money to build the structure. So probably not this year, but just a heads up, they may be in, or we may be in, to request something like 200,000 to help get this building built. So just a heads up, and then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Have you talked to the planning department about going out and getting a grant?
Yeah, we're going to do that too. We're going to cover all bases,
Okay.
as well as talk to a professional fundraiser.
Okay.
So.
Yep.
So that yeah, I'd like to, it might come before the board this year. So we're going forward with the design for the building. You'll do the design first. And then you put it out for a bid, and the design could take maybe 6 months. So 6 months from now, we may be coming forward with a request for occupancy tax money. The issue with the grants and the fundraising is they're not going to be immediate this year. So the time to get a grant is probably dwindling for us to be able to get something that would fund this project for this year. But the whole purpose is try to get it done within 2 years before the 250th anniversary of Pennsylvania, where Joseph Warren died. And just if I could change one more topic, I sent everyone an email about ice castles. So ice castles, just briefly, because we might see something from them. They did not put in a request for occupancy tax this year. They're still planning on having a local day for Lake George on the 6th of February. That's opening day. They've now agreed to have a local day for all of Warren County, probably the second week. However, it looks like weather is going to cause issues with them. They may not be able to have more than a couple weeks or more than 3 weeks of ice castles this year because of weather. If they do have a all Warren County day, they'll be in the red. So they probably will come forward with a request for occupancy tax if they're able to do the all Warren County day.
Put it together and bring it in. Frank.
Yes, just so the committee knows, I did budget for 2023 occupancy tax money for the sheriff's department and for DPW for overtime expenses. I don't remember the exact amount, but 75,000 between for both of them. It was less than they had requested, than they had put down that they had as expense. Was 75,
Just for the balloon festival or in overall?
That's everything.
Okay. Thank you. John?
I made the motion to adjourn.
Second. Jack, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.